Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Good morning. Good morning. It is I'm noticing that I really have to wash these windows. My name is Andrea Simintov. It is a beautiful morning in Jerusalem, the holy city in the Holy Land. You are listening to Pull Up a Chair on Israel News Talk Radio.com. Okay, I sound very upbeat. I am upbeat. We all should be upbeat. The sun is shining. We're alive. We're together. Where there's life, there's hope, and good things are going on. Strange things are going on. But together, it's all good. And remember that. I was thinking this week about assumptions, assuming that some people had good marriages, assuming people had terrible marriages, assuming that some people were lazy and not understanding that some people just really weren't well or had other things, assuming that people are principled when some people really may not be all that principled. Assumptions. I was a young girl watching once, I think it was the television show ER. Remember young, cute George Clooney? ER. And there was like a very unlikable physician on the show. And he pointed his finger at someone, and he had three fingers pointing back. I'm not really sure what the fingers meant, but he said something about when you assume, you make an ass of you and me. And I like that. And so this is a show about no assumptions. It's Parsha Chaye Sarah, the lives of Sarah, the mother of all monotheistic religions. And we have a lot to talk about the world. And we're going to talk today about the passing of Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who many of you listening in may not know about, may not have even heard about, and or may not know who I'm talking about, or may not have anything to think about. So today we will do that together. Let's see. American elections are still kind of like a little underpinning in the world. It's crazy. Okay, so when we come back, lots to talk about, lots to smile about, lots to hug about. My name is Andrea Simintov. I'll see you on the other side.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Okay, we're back. Andrea Simintov, Pull Up a Chair, Israel News Talk Radio.com. Before we go on, let's have our romper room moment. I want to say good very early morning to our friends in the U.S. and Canada. And also, it's early in the UK and in Germany's listening in, Spain, Sweden, and France. And of course, Boker Tov, Eretz Yisrael. The chat room is open. If you're listening to this and you're listening live, you know about that big kind of brick-colored button. Press it. Let me know from where you are listening in. Humorous note. I want to keep things upbeat. People take things so serious. Guess what? The sun still rose this morning, and Donald Trump may not indeed be the president. I'm not sure. Biden's may be the president. Don't know. But life goes on. Don't sweat it. All right, we're going to talk more and more about how we're going to emulate our father Abraham, our mother Sarah, and we're going to learn a lot about what leadership really is. And I promise you, the Washington Post and Le Monde may have very little insight, not nearly as much as the Torah. Okay, this week, I must mention this week, as a matter, what is today? Today's Thursday, last night was Tuesday night, I think it was. Tuesday night, via Zoom, that wonderful creation, Zoom, my family, my children, my grandchildren, my nieces, my nephews, and my siblings, of course, and our respective spouses, we all celebrated the 91st birthday of my blessed mother, who's vibrant, who's relatively with it, and we Zoomed and we had so much fun, and we made the best. We made the most. It was her 91st birthday, and you know what? I feel terrible if I allow myself. I can send myself into an absolutely downward spiral of grief that I cannot be with her on these days. And there's days where I just want to have a cup of tea with her in the same room, hold her hand, go through drawers and boxes and toss and laugh and all the things that we expected. We arrogantly think the daughterage of our parents will allow. And because of this COVID thing and because of the state of the world, I cannot. And you know what? I don't have to go there. There's no reason to go there. I said it's a good day. I don't know if it's a good day. Who knows what the scale is? But it's a good moment, a good hour, and we make it what it is. And we laughed a lot. And then in the time since then, we've reviewed the party. We made a joke. My husband made a big bag of popcorn, and one daughter opened a bottle of wine. And we said, well, we don't know what you're going to be serving. Someone's gluten-free. It was a lot of fun, and it was very blessed. And I was thinking about it because, again, this is Parshas Chaye Sarah. And I often get it mixed up because I always think it's the Chaya Sarah, the life of Sarah. But no, it's the lives of Sarah. And of course, we learn so much from the Torah. And we live many lives. Our existence is it's not flat, it's not a plane, it's not two-dimensional. There's depth, there's dips, there's textures. And we all learn from this. And I was thinking about, we read in the Torah about this cloud that hovered over Sarah's tent during her lifetime. And it disappeared when she does die. It disappears, but it reappears when Rivka marries Yitzchak, her son. Yitzchak marries Rivka. And so Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, I found this. I work so hard to find these things. Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik says in his book, the name of the book, if you want to look it up, Google, it's called The Warmth and the Light, that there's a midrash, and it tells us that the cloudy days are generally perceived to be unpleasant days, and they're representative of hard times. The cloud that hovered over our mother Sarah's tent thus symbolizes the sacrifices that every member of a Jewish household must make for one another. Every home inevitably experiences shares of difficulties, difficult moments, when the real strength of a family's bond is tested. In order to maintain and preserve not only a Jewish home, but vibrant homes, healthy homes, God-centered homes, all members have to be giving of themselves for the benefit of others. And I'm thinking to myself, as we celebrated my mother's 91st birthday, my gosh, it wasn't a straight line, and we told stories and we laughed, and horrible moments were able to be elevated to points of laughter. It was absolutely delightful. It was a lot of fun. Okay, Motzi Shabbos, Saturday night, turned on my computers, turned on my cell phone, and I was stunned, as so many in the Jewish world were stunned, about the passing of Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. And I was able to access so much from his last article. He actually was he had been battling cancer for years. I'm not even sure what kind of cancer it was. It's not important. And he had been in remission, and then it came back. He actually made the announcement early October that his cancer had returned, and he was, in treatment. And he was very upbeat, wrote a lot of articles, and was interviewed and saying, with every day is a precious day, and we'll approach the day. And suddenly, he died. He was only 72 years old, and no idea how much more he had left to do. And, in his last article, I love this. I'm going to just kind of extrapolate. He tells this great story. He has a series called Covenant and Conversation. I'm working from my home studio, so the producer has to keep telling me how much time I have left because I have so much to share today. So Rabbi Sacks, in his last article in his Covenant and Conversation series, which I urge all of you to subscribe to, he talks about an elderly man. An elderly man was interviewed by a British newspaper. He was a member of the House of Lords on his 92nd birthday, and the interviewer says to him, most people, when they turn 92, they start thinking about slowing down. You seem to be speeding up. Why is that? And the Lord's reply was, well, when you get to be 92, you start seeing that door starting to inch closed. And I have so much to do before the door closes that the older I get, the harder I work. Now, Rabbi Sacks was clearly, or I shouldn't say clearly, I believe he was trying to tell us a story about Abraham. And yet, there was something that was eerily prophetic about it. And if we're going to take away only one lesson from this show today, and one lesson from the life of Rabbi Sacks, it was his ironclad message that God alone doesn't do it. It is indeed a partnership. God promises, but we have to act. He promises Abraham the land, but Abraham had to buy the field. He promises that he's going to have many descendants, but Abraham has to have a son. All of the promises, God does not do it alone. There's a word in Hebrew, it's self-limitation, and the word is, I didn't even know this, I've heard it called tzimtzum. Isn't that great? Tzimtzum. And in which God creates the space for human freedom, our autonomy, where we get to have free will. He gives us responsibility, but only by exercising it do we reach our full stature as human beings. God saves Noah, but Noah had to make the ark. God gives Israel, but we have to fight the battles. God gives us the strength to act, but we have to do the deed. Action takes energy, according to Rabbi Sacks, but action gives us energy. If we wait to get on the spinning bike, if we wait to hop on the treadmill to have the energy, as Tony Soprano would say, forget about it. You got to hop on the treadmill. You got to start running, racing. Large promises, a land, a country, children, they're real. But it's only through these small beginnings. Who are leaders? Who are really real leaders? How appropriate is that question this week? Leaders begin with a vision of the future. But leaders understand that the journey is long, and we're only going to reach it one act, one successful endeavor at a time. There are no shortcuts. Abraham understood that he had to begin, but future generations would have to build on what he rooted and was holy. All great change is the work of more than one generation, and none of us will live to see the fruit of our endeavors. So indeed, stay patient. Leaders see destination. Leaders begin journeys. Leaders leave behind those who will continue it. That's enough to endow a life with immortality. Not only were those the words of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, indeed, it was the legacy of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. What an honor to share precious life space with such a Torah giant, flawed and real. This is Andrea Simantov. Guess what? I'll see you on the other side.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Okay, hello, we're back. Good morning, America. Good morning, Eretz Israel. Boker Tov, Vietnam. Okay, I realize that in recent weeks, recent months, we haven't done any current events, current news. And one of my humble excuses is that so many of the presenters on this station do it just so much better than I do. They're really ensconced in what's happening in the world, and I find that I am very ensconced in what is not happening in the world, in my own secret fantasy life, what should be happening in the world. So one of my fantasies came true. Ooh, Israeli researchers, I cannot make this out. I think it just came out like right after our last show, and I said, wow, I can't wait to talk about this. Israeli researchers find potential new treatment for leukemia. I don't know how many of you have heard that they apparently years of research, perhaps decades, the research found that blocking the fatty acid production of cancerous cells may starve the cells and prevent them from spreading in the brain. That appears to be the way cancer research seems to be thriving the most, starving the poisons, starving the cancers. What I found very interesting was that the researchers were a group effort. I always love seeing this stuff, that it came out of the studies were from scientists working together at both the Technion, the Israel Institute of Technology, the Schneider Children's Medical Center for Israel, Tel Aviv, and indeed the University of Glasgow. And the research was actually led by 3 female researchers, Angela Maria Savino, they should be named, Sara Isabel Fernandez, and Oriana Olivares. So I really think that is very exciting. Here we hit the politically correct or not. This is really good stuff. If you have anything to say about it, know more about it. We're not going to go into the details of it, but I know, and most people listening to this show have known people close to them who have succumbed to leukemia or are living with various stages of either Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. So this is good news. And once again, Israel, baby, you do it right. Okay, a little bit of a bleak news. I was sad to read this. I think this article came from Hannah Brown, who's actually a friend of mine and very involved in teen issues. She writes beautiful stories about the teenage experience. And she put out an article that says over 70% of youth who seek psychiatric care amid this COVID period, who are calling the hotlines, running to school guidance counselors, to their rabbis, to their priests, to whomever, to the imams. They're reporting suicidal thoughts. And the directors of various institutions, social work centers, have seen an 81% increase in new referrals during the second wave, as well as an increase in the severity of the problems of the patients, meaning that I guess that, it very much is the teenage experience, according to my memories and also my years of parenting, to go into funks, to go into deep, nobody 40 becomes goth. You have to be 17 to go into your angst mode. But nevertheless, they're going from like 0 to 100 in a second in terms of bleakness, in terms of hopelessness, and mental health directors and day programs, heads of day programs for children and adolescents really have their work cut out for them. I have some thoughts about this, my friends. And again, I'm working off script. A lot of people during this COVID period have been home alone, families locked up, and a lot of them talk out loud and are bemoaning the terror, bemoaning the horror, bemoaning the failings of political leadership, promoting the bleakness, talking about when it will be over. It will be over. And a lot of time is lost, has been lost, on growth, on laughter, on exploration, on hobby seeking, on thoughts, feelings, sharing. Days have passed and are checked off on calendars as we survived another one, instead of, oh my gosh, the hours passed, how meaningful it was. I can't believe the sun set. I can't wait until it rises again so we can make up more jokes, more games, more stories to write together. Instead of growing closer to each other during this period, and during these periods where it's all gift, if used that way, so many are using these periods to grow distant, to let the clouds define them instead of letting the clouds shelter them. Rabbi Samson Hirsch, maintains that Rivka, this story by the well where Eliezer comes and the first girl who will bring water to his animals or provide nourishment to them will be the proper wife for Yitzchak. And this little girl, some say she's 3, some say 3 is just a metaphor for, just fill in the blank. She doesn't immediately say, you know what, drink your water, Eliezer. I'm then going to draw water for your camels. She's not a big talker about what's going to be. And when this is over, I'm going to give and I'm going to do. She waits until he finishes drinking. And what does she do? She emulates a trait of saying little and doing much. My husband, Holy Ronnie, always says we're all geniuses when it comes to inspiration. You should know, this is Andrea talking. I'm going to open this little cafe up north, a nice coffee place, chit chat, books. I want to do a salad bar, I have all these things I'm going to do. You know what? Real success, according to my husband, 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. What does she do? She emulates this Rivka. She emulates Abraham's trait of saying little and doing much. When 3 strangers come to Abraham, you know what he says? Sit down, boy. My wife has that kitchen going. We're going to bring to you. Woo, woo, woo. No, instead he says, I'm going to bring you a morsel of food. I'm going to bring you a little something to eat, a little snack. Wet your whistle. And then he brings out meat and cakes and sumptuous delicacies. What are we doing? Are we talking about what the future is going to be? Or are we relishing 90% of our energies into connecting with the now? Oy vavoy lano, if our children are in trouble, our children see no hope, we are the ones that have to step up to the plate. And if you don't believe it, act like you do. Run to the stores, go online, buy the book, download Michtav Me'Eliyahu, Letters from Eliyahu, and get your daily dose of how to create joy, create positivity. Rabbi Pliskin, Gateway to Happiness. Write this down. I'm telling you now. I'll put it on the page. I'll put it on the thing. Gateway to Happiness. There's the happiness clubs. Bring it into your home. Bring in laughter. Bring in joy. Let the kids know that you are excited about tomorrow, and not just the children. If we have elderly parents, live it. And if you don't believe it yourself, get fixed. Because our children are counting on us and our parents are counting on us. We have to count on ourselves. Okay, done. That part of that speech is done. We have 3 minutes left. Let me toss in, has to be mentioned, Palestinian negotiator, the Arab negotiator for the Palestinian Authority, Saeb Erekat, after a long battle with COVID-19, died on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Died 2 days ago. Okay, I'm not going to go into his biography. You can get it online. Very interesting biography. The press, even the Israeli press, is being phenomenally kind to him. I will reserve my thoughts in that, but here's where my fantasy comes in. A leader of Palestinian Authority standing up, taking a public platform, announcing loud and clear on Al Jazeera, God bless Israel, who went above and beyond and poured every effort despite Saeb Erekat's checkered relationship with Jews and the Jewish state, who poured every energy into keeping him alive, keeping him comfortable, keeping his last days family filled and as vibrant as possible. That's my fantasy. Okay. Done with that one. Okay. Look it up. Oh, if you want to learn more about Rabbi Sacks, hold on, I have a piece of paper here somewhere. Wrote this down. You hear the paper? How much work I do. I'm exhausted here. You can go, as I said, what was it called? Covenant and Conversation. Covenant and Conversation is Rabbi Sacks' website. Fabulous stuff. He appeared regularly on aish.com. You could see him all over, but I came across a very lovely snippets, of course on YouTube they have, but a very lovely site called torahcafe.com. I do not get any money. I do not get any residuals for that. torahcafe.com, little nice snippets. Andrea Simantov, when I come back, full-time Parsha.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Ben-Tekoa, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
Okay, we're back. Andrea Simantov, pull up a chair on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Again, upbeat. We've pulled up a chair. We're sitting together. We all have the ability. We all have the ability, as I told you again and again, tell myself, every morning when we open our eyes and we say, Modeh ani, thank you, God, thank you. Oh my gosh. And then we raise up our arms, that's just figuratively, of course, and we grab the fresh canvas. And today is the day we paint. It doesn't mean that yesterday doesn't matter, but today cannot, must not dictate the endeavors of today. And we paint our day, and we paint our heart, and we paint our dreams. And then at the end of that day, when we go to sleep, the sun has set. We have an opportunity to look over that painting. Was it indeed a masterpiece? Or should it go into the garbage bin and pray for another canvas the next morning? That's the best we can do together. And not just paint our Dalit Amos, our four walls. Paint our world. Share, laugh. Remember, every time we have an opportunity, I share this with you. I had some negative interactions with a neighbor this week, and I have to tell you, I was not innocent. I wasn't innocent, and I'm struggling with this. And I'm reviewing all the ways that I could have made it better. And I have. And I'm addressing it. And it's not easy. And it's embarrassing. Want that word again? Embarrassing. But you know what? There's choice wherever we turn. We may not have the choice whether or not to die, but we certainly have choices how to die. Okay, and we're not going to go into that whole taxes thing. Okay, Chaye Sarah, the lives of Sarah. I always think this parsha because I think about how Jewish women have been maligned, certainly in recent generations, certainly in the Western experience. I was born in the 1950s, and I grew up among the rise of what we call the Borscht Belt comedians. Funny Jewish men, some women, who performed basically in the Catskill Mountain hotels before they made it into Tinseltown. Los Angeles started becoming famous in that way. And what was their the American experience shed light suddenly on the, quote, unattractiveness, pushiness, rudeness, unwieldiness of Jewish women, how unbearable, how overwhelming, how horrible. Because suddenly the whole idea that there was an American type woman, Jewish women were dieting themselves down to look more like, I don't know, I was going to say Hedy Lamarr, but she was Jewish. And we suddenly became embarrassed. Jewish women were not seen as prizes to the Borscht Belt comedian men, but rather liabilities and embarrassments. Of course, these were the guys that were suffering, because on one hand, they were extolling their Yiddish mamas, but on the other hand, they were running away from Jewish girls who wanted a piece of their flesh. We all know what Philip Roth, the late, and I will withhold saying great, although in later years he redeemed himself to me a tad. But Philip Roth, what he did to Jewish women, I pray that he's still not paying a price in the afterlife. So let me talk to you about Jewish women. The matriarchs of Israel, they were strong personalities. They were formidable. They were the original feminists in their femininity. They knew their gifts. They knew their charms. They knew that they were not equal to men because they were different than men. Equality was a crock. Everyone embraced their roles, and especially as exemplified by our mother Sarah. She's an excellent example of this assessment of character and behavior. From the Torah's narrative, we're informed early on that she's infertile, unable to conceive and give birth naturally. Well, I don't know about you, but if that were my diagnosis and the diagnosis of so many women, it would be terrible despair. She's actually willing to bring another woman into her house to share her husband in the hope that somehow this can trigger a pregnancy within her. And before we scoff, how many of us have heard stories about women who were deemed infertile, who adopted a child or brought in foster children to love and devote attention on and to nurture, and suddenly these women would find themselves pregnant. You know, Sarah becomes shocked when she's informed by a stranger, seemingly a Bedouin Arab, that she's going to conceive and bear a son to Abraham. And this is the moment. She understands God promised, God delivers. But not only is she going to become an ordinary mother, but she goes from being a mommy to a matriarch who's going to preside over an eternal people. Anybody Jewish and listening now, you know about the sacrifices of Sarah. Only by virtue that you can actually listen to this show. She has to protect that eternity. She has to safeguard it. And she does something very unwomanly. She expels a child from her home. She doesn't cower. It's a distasteful task. This way, she's actually stronger than her husband. She's actually backing up heaven's position. She's a woman of iron that acts to guarantee the future survival of we, the Jewish people. She serves as an incredible example, the paradigm for the matriarchs that follow her in the Torah. Rivka is certainly a very strong force in the house of Yitzchak, who recognizes the darkness of Esav in comparison to the potential, the holy potential of Yaakov. She shows incredible strength in having to do this family triage, to knowingly accept the consequences of her most terrible decision that we're going to talk about in another parsha or so. Her ability and strength really characterizes all of the matriarchs of Israel. Sarah lives on in Rivka's life and her decisions. And the same thing is true regarding Rachel and Leah, Rachel and Leah, who are more aware of the nefarious, the dangerous, the disgusting, the destructive ways of their father Lavan than their husband, Yaakov. It's their Lavan's daughters who finally force Yaakov to heed God's voice and direct Yaakov to leave Aram and return to the land of Israel. The strength, the character of women who guarantee Jewish survival. If Chava, Eve, is recorded as being the mother of all living things, it is Sarah who is the mother of the loving, vibrant, eternal people of Israel. You know, we often mistake the trait of goodness with weakness. We think that good people have to automatically be soft people in a world that's harsh, cruel. Softness is not necessarily seen as a virtue. And yet when we take a look at Sarah's life, we can't help but be stunned. She was very strong-willed. She was a very powerful personality. She took severe, really drastic steps to safeguard that her son Yitzchak would be safe from his half-brother Ishmael. And even when her husband Abraham seems to be in doubt as to treat the matter, I don't know, he's a child, she stays firm. And eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, tells Abraham, listen to your wife. Listen to what she tells you to do. Goodness is not seen as weakness. It is to be seen as a search for the ultimate benefit of that person. Goodness is for the sake of society. In a good society, justice is done. Corrective measures are taken to make certain that evil is not allowed to flourish or go unpunished and go unchallenged. We're talking about our homes, boys and girls. We have all been charged with bringing holiness to our four walls. It's not the license plate that the crass attorney has that says, my lawyer is better than your lawyer, or he who dies with the most toys wins. The opposite. The type of world that Abraham and Sarah were striving to build is the influence of their personalities that mark their generation and indeed give a stamp of goodness and purpose to what we are tasked with doing. Our job in accomplishing goodness has always been a challenge to the Jewish people and all good people for millennia. It remains our mission and goal today. Shabbat Shalom u'Mivorach.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.